Lightning's back.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is that time again for another episode of Black Lightning Season 4, the final season. And this was a really great episode. This is episode 2 of Season 4, and it's titled The Book of Reconstruction, Chapter 2, Unacceptable Losses. And like I said, this was a really good episode. Like, Black Lightning in past seasons, I've found honestly kind of boring, and I was never really that into it. But this season so far, especially with this episode, my attention was captivated here the whole time. Like, I was really into it for this episode, and I really enjoyed it. And we have a lot to talk about here. But first, before I jump into that, I do want to just say thank you guys. I've gotten a lot of support on my first episode review for Black Lightning Season 4. That's probably one of my highest viewed Arrowverse reviews and breakdowns, because I do that for all the shows, but Black Lightning is doing really well. And I only have like 800 views on that, which, if you think about it, isn't really that much, but I mean, it is for me. So I really appreciate that, guys, and thank you. Thank you for the support on these videos, and I plan to continue on doing these, so definitely stay tuned. But anyways, guys, let's go ahead and jump into this review and breakdown for Black Lightning Season 4, Episode 2. So we start off this episode seeing that the gang wars are continuing on here in this series, and we have Destiny, who is now kind of taken over for Lady Eve, which I don't remember what happened to her. We know that she was brought back last season after the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover. Somehow she was brought back to life. And I don't remember or not, like, did she die? Or is she just, for some reason, just missing here? I'm not completely sure. If you know the answer to that, definitely let me know in the comments below. But Destiny was basically like her number one henchman, and she is now taken over for Lady Eve until she gets back, if she gets back, which I doubt she will. So Destiny is the leader of the Cobra Cartel, and we have that group, of course, going up against Lala and the 100. So that's kind of the big gang war that we're seeing here in this season. And with this looming gang war, Chief Lopez is getting some tech to not only try and stop the gangs, but also to try and take down the metas. And Chief Lopez doesn't really do anything in this episode, but there is something I wanted to mention, because in the comment section for last episode's review and breakdown, Rose mentioned that they think Chief Lopez is actually Gravedigger in disguise, which is something I completely did not even think about, but now, as soon as I saw that comment, I was like, it makes so much sense, because Chief Lopez is mega sus. Like, she's super suspicious. She does not seem like a good person here. And we saw, that was one of the cliffhangers of Season 3, was that Gravedigger was still out there, and we know that he can shapeshift. Wait, can he shapeshift? I'm not completely sure, but, you know, it would just make sense. So that's the basics of that. I don't know if it'll actually happen. I think it is likely to happen. We'll have to wait and see. But definitely, good theory, Rose. So there's that. But in this episode, again, everybody is struggling with a whole bunch of different stuff. And we see this, for instance, with Jennifer, which last episode's cliffhanger ended with her falling from the sky. And we start off this episode with her just walking around and she's fine. So that was a little confusing how they didn't really explain it too much. But basically, she's fine after falling out of the sky. So, I mean, that's a good thing, though. But she's basically, like, really obsessed with her hero life and fighting crime. And she doesn't care about school. She doesn't care about getting into college. She's like, I'm a superhero, and this is my life now. And, you know, it's kind of sad to think about, but, I mean, at least it's a good cause. Like, she is saving lives, so there's that. But let's see. So then there is actually a shootout in town. So she's got to go suit up as Lightning and go take down the bad guys, and she does actually stop the shootout, but we're going to stop the convo there because there's some other characters involved with that shootout that we got to talk about their journey in this episode first, like with Anissa, who at work, she's a doctor, which I don't know if they've mentioned this before. Like, I had no idea Anissa was a doctor. Like, maybe they've mentioned it before, maybe they've showed it, it just wasn't really focused on that much, but I I had no idea she was a doctor, but apparently she is a doctor, and she's met this new friend at work who's kind of into her at first, but then finds out, oh yeah, she's into ladies. So, but then they start bonding, like getting a good relationship going on here, and then she goes out with him after seeing that Grace is started shapeshifting in her coma, and she was like a jaguar. So that's pretty interesting. I'm interested to see where that goes this season, because the actress was up to a series regular, so we know she's coming out of her coma, but I'm interested to see where that goes from here. But then Anissa and this new doctor friend, I didn't catch his name, but they go to the shootout because they are doctors, so they figure, oh, maybe we can help out with this. And when they get there, there is a teenager that has been shot, a high school student that has been shot, and Anissa tries to save him, but he doesn't make it, and this is a really a sad moment here, and it's just too bad he didn't make it. But then we also have Lynn, who has showed up here to the battle as well. She showed up after Lightning did, and she pops in with her glow-in-the-dark mask and her full-on druggy powers. And then after that is when Jen actually gets hurt. She flies away, and this is where we find out that why she goes up into the upper atmosphere. It's because she can connect to the energy up there, and it basically allows her to heal. So that's actually pretty cool, and I like that addition to her powers here. So I really like seeing that added in here with that part there. But then when Lynn gets home, she basically reveals her whole crime-fighting life to Jefferson, and obviously he is not too happy about that at all. And Jennifer and Anissa aren't either. They go to her work and call her out for this, saying she's a liability. And this ultimately just leads to her, in the end of the episode, injecting herself with, I think, something else, and now she's got different powers, and man, she's got to get off this addiction. Like, she was blaming Jefferson for being addicted to his powers, but look at her now. So that's pretty crazy. And then the ending of the episode for Anissa here is she's in her full Blackbird outfit here, and she basically threatens Lala and Destiny, like, you gotta stop this war. And that's the basics of stuff that went on there with all those storylines. But now I really want to get into the meat of this episode, the big storyline with Jefferson, where it was really interesting because we started off seeing that he couldn't fall asleep because he just couldn't stop thinking about Henderson's death. So he went outside just to let out his rage, and that's always a good thing, to just let your emotions be free. And he just lit up the sky, lightning from his hands. Kind of reminds me of Shazam when he was like, just showing off with his powers. So Jefferson was doing that, and then all of a sudden he just passed out, and then Lynn just found him laying there, basically asleep on the porch in the morning. Like, she thought he was going to the couch. No, he just gonna go sleep on the porch. It's fine. And one of my favorite moments of this episode is where we see that Tobias Whale actually confronts Jefferson, and this was just such a cool moment, seeing these two face to face once again. We haven't seen them battle each other since like season 3, I think. No, season 2, because season 3 they were pretty much apart for the whole season. So this was really cool to see, especially because Tobias has actually now injected himself with this orange serum that has basically made him immune to Black Lightning. So Jefferson tries to electrocute him, but it does nothing to him. It doesn't affect him at all, which is just absolutely insane. Like, how is Jefferson supposed to stop him now? Because his number one greatest power is completely useless. So that's really cool, and again, another thing I'm just super excited to see where this goes. That's one of the things I love the most in this show, is just that dynamic and that rivalry between those two people right there. But then another argument here. We got lots of arguments and lots of calling out in this episode, where Gamby calls out Jefferson for giving up on Black Lightning, because he keeps going out there and like getting revenge on people and beating up people, using his powers and everything, but without his suit. And it's like, well, why can't you just put on the suit? It's better for your body. And I just love this scene. This was just such a cool scene, seeing these two guys just let all of their emotions out on the table, and just it was just a really well acted scene. I really enjoyed this. But Gambi in this episode did have a small part, but he did have some interesting setup for the rest of the season, where we see that he had a meeting with, I'm not completely sure if it's the same person, the same lady from last episode. I think her name was Lauren. Again, correct me on this stuff if I'm wrong, but I believe it's the same lady. And before, she was offering him a job at the CIA, and he was like, nah, I'm good, I'm not going to do that. But now in this episode, he realizes that, maybe I should do it, because if we're being honest, it's not like he really does anything else. After he faked his death, really he spent months alone in the basement just being, the guy in the chair for Black Lightning. So I think he deserves this. He deserves to be back at the CIA, and before he was with the ASA. So he just deserves to be back in this position, just doing something, because it's something he's good at. It's something he enjoys doing. So I think this is what he deserves. And with this being the final season, I think this is a great way to kind of close his story, and is have him get back to doing what he was doing before, because that's what he's good at. And at the end of the episode, he actually accepts this job. And also, we did get a few sparks here, a few teasers of maybe a romance between those two. So, ooh la la, go get him, Gambi. But then this is where we get the ending of the episode, which was a really cool part, another kind of small part, but Jefferson actually calls TC, which, if you remember from last season, was the tech guy. He had like the techie powers, and he could hack stuff, and he was like super close with Gambi. And something I forgot to mention in my last episode review was like, where are all these other characters? Where are the rest of the outsiders? Like characters like TC that are just all of a sudden disappeared, and like Brandon, where did he go? They're just all of a sudden gone. So I hopefully this means they're going to be in this season. We at least get to see TC's voice, and he gives Jefferson the address of the guy that shot that high school kid. And then, just as it happened in last episode, he goes to that guy's address, he beats him up, he threatens him, and he's like, yeah, deal with it. And that's where the episode ends. And this is really interesting. This is interesting to see. It kind of reminds me of Daredevil Season 3, how, Matt Murdock, well, I guess spoilers for that. I mean, not really huge spoilers, but Matt Murdock was Daredevil, but he never put on the suit in that season. And you see this here, how Jefferson is basically being Black Lightning and fighting crime just in a more brutal way, just without the suit and without actually being Black Lightning. So, I mean, I'm hoping that this does not end up like Daredevil Season 3, where he doesn't wear the suit at all. Hopefully he does end up wearing the suit by the end of the season, and most likely he will. But again, as I was saying last episode, this is going to be a really interesting journey to see what really drives him over the edge to be able to put that suit back on and once again take on the mantle of Black Lightning, which, as we see every episode with the intro, it always says like Black Lightning's back, and that's what the whole series is about, is how Black Lightning came back. He became a hero again after all those years, and now he's kind of on a break again. So now it's kind of come full circle to where we started with season 1. So you kind of have to redeem this character almost, and I'm just really excited to see this. I'm just really interested to see where this story goes to wrap up this season and this series. So, guys, that was this episode of Black Lightning. Again, I really love this episode. I was just really into it, noting down every little detail here. So, I love this. But guys, let me know down in the comments below all your thoughts on this episode and all your theories for this final season of Black Lightning. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video and hit the subscribe button so I can keep up to date on everything that goes on in the DC life.